Hello and welcome to this little Spalluccipedia video, another dive into the shadowy world of my investigator paranormal Sam Spallucci. Now before I go on and have a quick chat about the vampire Scorpion, please give me a quick like and perhaps a subscribe. Click that little bell button for notifications. It'd be absolutely marvellous. That way you get more of these when they crop up if you fancy. So, yeah, today I want to have a little chat about one of my favourite side characters really, Scorpion. Along with Tigress, Scorpion is one of the main vampires in Sam's world, one of the children of Cain, the descendants of Cain. We have the bloodline of Abel, which are the werewolves, excuse me. And we have the children of Cain, who are descended from Cain, as in Cain and Abel in the biblical sense. And Scorpion's been around a long time. We first meet her in the Sam stories in Dark Justice, which is Sam number 4. Sam gets dragged along to this folk night at the Gregson Centre in Lancaster by Spliff, and he doesn't do folk music, so his attention's distracted, and he notices that there are 2 vampires there. Obviously Scorpion and Tigress. He goes outside and he's confronted by them. And Tigress is like the hot-blooded, yakety, always talking, whereas Scorpion is effectively an elective mute. She hardly speaks, she'll only talk to Tigress, apart from when she prophesies. More on those in a minute. And that's the first time we see them. However, that's not the first time I actually used them. I wrote a story back in 2012 when I was actually working on Casebook. Actually, no, it'd been 2011 because Casebook was published 2012. I wrote it back in 2011 called Girls Just Want to Have Fun. And I had these 2 vampires, Tigress and Scorpion, as it was. And they're off hunting a construct. And the way they hunted the construct was they lured him to a bar through a date ad in a newspaper. Worked out he was a construct, killed him. Quite a short story. Still enjoy reading that one. It's one of my favourites. If I remember, I'll pop a link to it. Up there. One side or the other, or perhaps even down there. Who knows? I can never tell when the camera's this way around. Yeah, and I've come back and used them numerous times. They're Dark Justice, but they crop up again in Fury of the Fallen. And they feature quite prominently inside the Bobby Normal stories. In the 3rd book, Bobby Normal and Children of Cain, obviously has the vampires in it, and you've got Claw, and you've got Tigress, and you've got Scorpion. And if you haven't read it, fingers in your ears, blah, 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 blah. Tigress and Scorpion, they know when they're going to die, like all vampires do, and the Children of Cain has their death scene in it, and they go out as they lived, fighting constructs. So where did I come up with the idea of Scorpion? Well, quite amusingly, Scorpion and Tigress are both birthed in an internet chat room many years ago. One of the old ones that used to be around, Super Chat or something like that. There was a user whose username was Scorpion Tigress, and I liked that name. And a few years later, when I came to start writing, so I was like, actually, that sort of works for a name of a pair of vampires who go around hunting these constructs in my universe. So that's where I got the name from. It was a username in a chat room. But Scorp is more than just a vampire. She is actually a prophetess, as it unfolds in the stories. And she is actually Cassandra from the Trojan Wars. For those of you who haven't not versed in Trojan mythology and all that sort of bits and bobs, when Troy was about to fall, Cassandra, who was the princess, but also a priestess, she was the daughter of the king there, she prophesied that Troy was going to fall, and nobody believed her. And because she was cursed to prophesy, and nobody would ever believe her. And I've always been fascinated with Troy. It crops up a lot in the stories, especially surrounding Scorp, and surrounding Asherah as well, because I put Asherah in there as well. And Cassandra especially, you know, this real sort of like tragic character. Yeah, there's different versions to what happens to Cassandra. Some versions say that she died in Troy, others that she was taken off and sent to Greece and used as a sort of like a royal slave sort of harem sort of female. And I'm going to actually deal with that at some point, because I've sort of like put little Easter eggs throughout the stories regarding the fall of Troy. We've seen little snippets of it. Sam's been sort of like there with Lucifer, and we had the short story where Dave and Scorp went back there as well, and they see, you know, younger Scorp with Asherah as Troy is about to fall. And I want to go back and revisit those at some point, possibly in the next couple of years. At the time of recording this, I'm actually just over halfway through Sam 8, which is Sam Spalluccipedia Lux Eterna. So yeah, it'd be nice to go back and slightly do that. I've been saying that for a few years, but we'll see how we go. So anyway, I taught this idea of prophecy, and I went with it with Scorpion. So not only does she have visions, which she then relates to Tigress, and you know the vampires go off and they'll go and find certain constructs or indeed new vampires, because when Dave Nichols was made a vampire, he was made a vampire because Nightingale and Marcus have been told there's somebody there, you need to go and make a vampire, which is how Nightingale ended up having a firstborn, as it were. But as well as those, she is linked to the prophecies. Now, these things which are coming from somewhere else, basically from the prophets who are in beyond. And they are telling snippets of what's going to happen. Like when the Eternals combine, the universe will be ended. That the dragons are rising, one is awake, one is slumbering, things like that. And as the stories go on with Scorpion, we can see that they are starting to take their toll on her, which probably is down to the fact that she's a vampire rather than a human, and because Boombot's Betty also prophesied. But she was quite chill with it. But Scorp, by the time we get to Fallen Angel, which hasn't been published yet, certainly not at least time recording, we have Scorpion there giving her final prophecy, and poor lass is a wreck. Poor lass is a wreck. But anyway, so yeah, there's lots to go still with Scorpion and Tigress. As I said, they are two of my favourite characters. Not probably in the Sam books now. I think I've sort of like finished Sam's relationship with the vampires in Lux Eterna. The case of the argumentative archaeologist very much seals that. So he's going to turn against them. Sorry, spoilers. So the last appearance in the Sam books, I think, is probably for Scorp is going to have been Fury of the Fallen. But we will see her again. There's certainly, let's say, got my Troy novella coming out at some point. She's in Fallen Angel. And, you know, if you haven't read the Bobby Normal books, pop over aschambers.co.uk. Perhaps pick up, you know, the first 3, or, you know, all 5. Because by the time this comes out, hopefully 5 will be out by then. Who knows? We'll see how it goes. Anyway, right, that's enough rambling on for now. I'll let you get back to your wonderful lives. Thank you for watching. Again, quick like, quick subscribe. That'd be absolutely marvellous. I'll see you again soon.